Mother screams as dog attacks her son, until she realizes the terrifying reason. In the quaint town of Asheville, where autumn leaves painted the streets in golden hues, the Thompson family house stood unusually quiet. The absence of playful barks and the gentle padding of paws on hardwood floors left an emptiness that seemed to echo through every room. Emma Thompson watched her children, 7-year-old Chloe and 5-year-old Ethan, as they sat by the window. Their small faces pressed against the glass, waiting for something or someone that wouldn't return. Molly, their beloved German shepherd, had been more than just a pet. She had been the children's confidant, Emma's silent supporter through sleepless nights, and Mark's faithful running companion through the misty mountain trails. Now, the space she once filled seemed impossibly vast. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us which city you are watching from. Let's continue. Mommy, when can we get another dog? Chloe's question hung in the air, not for the first time. Her blue eyes, so much like her father's, held a mixture of hope and sadness that made Emma's heart ache. Mark, who had been pretending to read the newspaper in his favorite armchair, lowered it slightly, his jaw tightening. Honey, we've talked about this, he said, his voice carrying a weight that the children couldn't fully understand. Emma understood her husband's reluctance. Molly had been with them through everything: the kids' first steps, countless family picnics, and those challenging times when Mark had lost his job and had to reinvent himself. The thought of replacing her seemed impossible to him. But Emma saw something different when she looked at her children's faces. She saw the need for healing, for new beginnings. The house felt too big, too empty, and too quiet. The children needed something to pour their love into, and perhaps, she thought, they all needed a reminder that love could grow in new and unexpected ways. Maybe we could just visit the shelter, Emma suggested one evening, after the children had gone to bed. She watched Mark's expression carefully as he stood by the kitchen window, staring out at the backyard where Molly used to play, just to look, for the kids. Mark turned to face her, his eyes reflecting the kitchen lights. I don't know if I'm ready, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. What if... He didn't finish the sentence, but Emma knew what he meant. What if they couldn't love another dog the same way? What if it felt like betraying Molly's memory? The days turned into weeks, and the children's questions became more frequent. Emma noticed how Chloe would sometimes sit in Molly's old spot by the fireplace, clutching her favorite stuffed animal. Ethan had taken to drawing pictures of dogs in every color imaginable, plastering them all over the refrigerator door. It was a particularly cold Saturday morning when Mark finally broke. Chloe had come down to breakfast wearing one of Molly's old bandanas she'd found in a drawer, and Ethan had spent the morning making woofing sounds, claiming he was practicing for when they got a new dog. Okay, Mark said suddenly, putting down his coffee mug with more force than necessary. Okay, we can go to the shelter, just to look. The children's faces lit up like Christmas morning, and Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest. She knew this wasn't just about getting a new pet. It was about allowing their family to grow in a new direction, about teaching their children that love wasn't a finite resource that ran out when you lost something precious. As they drove to the local shelter that afternoon, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was about to happen. The children bounced excitedly in their car seats, while Mark gripped the steering wheel with both hands, his knuckles white with tension. None of them could have predicted what awaited them at the Asheville Animal Shelter, a meeting that would not only change their lives, but would challenge everything they thought they knew about the bond between humans and animals. As they pulled into the parking lot, Emma noticed something unusual about the old brick building. Despite the cheerful "Adopt a Friend Today" banner hanging over the entrance, there was an almost palpable energy in the air, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for what was about to unfold. Little did the Thompsons know that behind those shelter doors, destiny had already set in motion a chain of events that would transform their quiet suburban life into something extraordinary. Among the wagging tails and hopeful eyes, a special soul waited, one that would bring not just love back into their lives, but something far more mysterious and profound than any of them could have imagined. The shelter's interior buzzed with life, a symphony of barks, whimpers, and excited yips filled the air as the Thompson family made their way down the main corridor. Emma felt Mark's tension beside her, his steps measured and hesitant, while Chloe and Ethan darted from kennel to kennel, their faces lighting up at each new potential friend they encountered. "Look at this one." "Mommy!" Chloe squealed, pointing at a bouncing golden retriever puppy. "And that one," Ethan chimed in, completely captivated by a spotted mutt doing tricks for attention. The children's enthusiasm was infectious, but Emma noticed Mark hanging back, his arms crossed over his chest, creating a physical barrier between himself and the possibility of a new connection. Sarah, the shelter volunteer who had greeted them at the entrance, walked alongside them, sharing stories about each dog they passed. "All our animals have their own unique personalities," she explained, her voice warm with genuine affection for her charges. "Sometimes it's not so much about choosing a dog as it is about being chosen." As if on cue, Emma felt a peculiar sensation, a subtle pull that drew her attention to the far end of the corridor. There, in a quieter section of the shelter, sat a German Shepherd puppy. Unlike the other dogs that bounded excitedly at their kennels or gates, this one remained still, watching them with an intensity that seemed almost human. "Who's that?" Emma found herself asking, already moving toward the kennel. The puppy's eyes locked with hers, and something inexplicable passed between them, a recognition that defied logical explanation. Sarah consulted her clipboard. "That's Cooper. He was found wandering alone near the industrial district about a month ago. No collar, no chip, but incredibly well behaved. He's a bit of a mystery, actually." She paused, studying the puppy's behavior. "I've never seen him show this much interest in visitors before." Emma approached the kennel slowly, and Cooper rose to his feet, his tail giving a single, deliberate wag. He was larger than the average puppy, with an unusual gravitas about him that seemed at odds with his young age. As Emma knelt before the kennel, Cooper approached with measured steps, his eyes never leaving hers. "Mark," Emma called softly, "come look at this one." Mark hesitated, but something in Emma's voice drew him forward. The moment he came into view, Cooper's demeanor shifted subtly. The puppy's ears perked forward, and his head tilted slightly, as if assessing Mark with careful consideration. "He's a German Shepherd," Mark stated flatly, but Emma could hear the slight tremor in his voice. "The same breed as Molly." It felt both right and terrifying at the same time. The children, noticing their parents' interest, rushed over. Cooper's reaction to them was remarkable. His entire body language transformed, alert but gentle, protective yet playful. He pressed his nose against the kennel gate near Ethan's hand, sniffing carefully before giving it a tiny lick that made the boy giggle. "Can we see him in the play area?" Emma asked, surprising herself with the urgency in her voice. Sarah nodded, opening the kennel with practiced ease. Cooper emerged with dignity, falling into perfect heel position beside Sarah as they walked to the shelter's enclosed yard. In the play area, Cooper revealed another layer of his mysterious personality. He engaged with the children in a way that seemed almost calculated, gentle with Ethan's enthusiastic attempts at fetch, patient with Chloe's eager petting, but always maintaining a watchful awareness of his surroundings. "There's something different about him," Sarah commented, watching Cooper interact with the family. "Most puppies his age are all energy and chaos, but Cooper, it's like he's operating on a different frequency altogether." Mark, who had been observing from the sidelines, finally stepped closer. Cooper immediately approached him, sitting directly at his feet and looking up with those impossibly knowing eyes. The moment stretched between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. "He needs a home, Mark," Emma said softly, recognizing the internal struggle playing across her husband's face. "What's his background?" Mark asked Sarah, his protective father instinct kicking in. "And with the kids being so young?" "He's been nothing but gentle," Sarah assured them. "But I'll be honest, we don't know much about his past. He was found alone, but his behavior suggests he's had some kind of training. He's unusually attuned to human behavior for a puppy his age." As they discussed Cooper's mysterious origins, Emma noticed something peculiar. The puppy had positioned himself between Ethan and a section of the yard where some maintenance equipment was stored, subtly but consistently herding the boy away from that area. When Chloe ran too close to the same spot, Cooper quickly diverted her attention with a well-timed, playful bow. The sun was beginning to set when Mark finally spoke the words that would change their lives forever. "We'll take him," he said, his voice rough with emotion. He belongs with us." The paperwork was processed quickly, and as they prepared to leave, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a simple adoption. Cooper's eyes held secrets, and his behavior suggested a purpose beyond that of a typical family pet. As they walked to their car, Cooper fell into step beside them as if he had always been there, as if he had been waiting for precisely this moment, this family. What none of them realized then was that Cooper's mysterious past and inexplicable behaviors were just the beginning. The real mystery and the true purpose of his presence in their lives was about to unfold in ways that would challenge everything they thought they knew about the connection between humans and animals and the true meaning of protection. The first few weeks with Cooper brought a renewed energy to the Thompson household. The silence that had permeated their home was replaced by the gentle clicking of paws on hardwood floors and the occasional soft whimper of puppy dreams. Yet, as the family settled into their new routine, Emma began noticing subtle peculiarities in their new companion's behavior. Unlike typical puppies who bounded through their new homes with reckless abandon, Cooper moved with deliberate precision. He systematically explored every room, every corner, every potential entry point to the house, as if conducting a security assessment. His attention to detail was particularly evident in the children's spaces. "Have you noticed how he always checks the kids' rooms before they go to bed?" Emma asked Mark one evening, watching as Cooper performed what had become his nightly ritual, a methodical inspection of both Chloe and Ethan's bedrooms. Mark, still adjusting to the new presence in their home, shrugged. Maybe it's just his way of settling in. Dogs are territorial, aren't they? But Emma wasn't convinced this was typical territorial behavior. There was something almost tactical about Cooper's movements, especially around certain areas of the house. The garage, in particular, seemed to draw his attention. He would stand at its entrance, ears forward, body tense, as if listening for something beyond human perception. One afternoon, while Emma was folding laundry in the basement, she witnessed something that made her question everything she thought she knew about animal behavior. Ethan had been playing with his toy cars near the old electrical panel when Cooper suddenly appeared, positioning himself between the boy and the wall. At first, Emma thought nothing of it, but then she noticed how Cooper kept nudging Ethan away from that specific spot, his actions subtle but persistent. "Cooper, what's gotten into you?" she asked, watching as the dog herded her son toward the center of the room. Later that evening, when she mentioned the incident to Mark, he suggested having an electrician check the wiring, if only to ease her mind. The children, however, were delighted with Cooper's attentive nature. They had quickly learned that he was different from other dogs they'd met, more focused, more present. Chloe had taken to calling him her guardian angel after he prevented her from tripping on a loose rug by blocking her path. "Mom, Cooper won't let me go into the garage alone," Ethan complained one morning, his lower lip jutting out in frustration. "He keeps standing in front of the door." Emma watched as Cooper sat firmly in the doorway, his posture relaxed but unmovable. When she approached to investigate, she noticed a slight flickering in the garage lights, something she might have missed if not for Cooper's behavior, drawing her attention to it. The most peculiar incidents involved the children's toys. Emma began finding them relocated to strange places, gathered away from electrical outlets, moved from beneath windows, clustered together in the center of rooms. At first, she assumed the kids were being careless with their belongings, but then she caught Cooper in the act. With careful precision, he was moving Chloe's favorite doll away from a power strip near her bed. "Mark," Emma called out, her voice trembling slightly. "You need to see this." Mark arrived just in time to witness Cooper gently picking up another toy and placing it alongside the others, well away from any electrical sources. The dog's actions were deliberate, purposeful, leaving no doubt that this was intentional behavior. "This isn't normal," Mark finally admitted, running a hand through his hair. "I've never seen anything like it." That night, as thunder rolled across the sky and rain pelted against the windows, Cooper's behavior became even more pronounced. He paced between the children's rooms, his attention focused on the ceiling where old wiring ran between floors. When a particularly loud crack of thunder shook the house, Cooper positioned himself beneath the main electrical panel, his eyes fixed on the circuit breaker. Emma lay awake, listening to the storm and Cooper's soft movements through the house. She couldn't shake the feeling that their new family member wasn't just a pet, he was something more, something she couldn't quite understand. The way he watched over them, especially the children, went beyond simple animal instinct. "What are you, Cooper?" she whispered into the darkness. "What are you trying to tell us?" As if in response, Cooper appeared in the doorway of her bedroom, his silhouette outlined by the hallway nightlight. His eyes, reflecting the dim light, seemed to hold answers to questions Emma hadn't even thought to ask yet. He stood there for a moment, as if considering whether to share his secrets, before turning to resume his vigilant patrol of the house. In the days that followed, Emma began keeping a journal of Cooper's unusual behaviors. Each entry revealed a pattern that became impossible to ignore. Their new family member seemed to have an uncanny awareness of potential dangers, particularly those involving electricity and the children's safety. But this was just the beginning, and the true extent of Cooper's extraordinary abilities was about to reveal itself in ways that would leave the Thompson family questioning everything they thought they knew about the bond between humans and their four-legged companions. The shift in seasons brought cooler temperatures to Asheville, and with them came an escalation in Cooper's mysterious behavior. Emma's journal had grown thick with observations, each entry more perplexing than the last. The dog's actions seemed to follow a pattern that defied conventional explanation, particularly when it came to electrical devices and the children's safety. One crisp morning, while Emma was preparing breakfast, the ancient heating system kicked on with its familiar groan. Cooper, who had been dozing near Ethan's feet, suddenly snapped to attention. His ears perked forward, and his body tensed as he focused on the kitchen wall where the main heating duct disappeared into the ceiling. "Cooper," Emma called softly, recognizing the now familiar signs of his alertness. The dog's response was immediate. He moved to position himself between the wall and Ethan, who was happily munching on his cereal, oblivious to the unfolding drama. Just then, a loud pop emanated from within the wall, followed by an acrid smell. Emma quickly turned off the heater and ushered Ethan away from the kitchen. When the maintenance worker arrived later that day, he discovered frayed wiring in the heating system that could have caused significant problems if left unchecked. "You're lucky you caught this when you did," the repairman commented, showing Emma the damaged wires. "These old systems can be unpredictable." But Emma knew it wasn't luck, it was Cooper. The incident added another layer to the growing mystery surrounding their extraordinary pet Mark, who had initially dismissed Emma's concerns as overprotective imagination, began to pay closer attention to Cooper's behavior patterns. "I've been doing some research," Mark announced one evening after the children had gone to bed. He spread several printouts across the kitchen table, while Cooper watched intently from his position near the doorway. "There are documented cases of dogs detecting electrical problems and other hazards, something about their sensory perception being more refined than ours." Emma leaned over the papers, her eyes scanning the information. "But this is different, isn't it? Cooper doesn't just detect these things, he actively works to protect us from them. The way he moves the children's toys, how he blocks certain areas." Their discussion was interrupted by a soft whimper from Cooper. The dog had risen to his feet and was staring intently at the ceiling of the living room. Above them, they could hear Chloe's footsteps as she made her way to the bathroom. Without warning, Cooper bolted up the stairs. Mark and Emma followed, their hearts racing. They found him stationed outside the bathroom door, his body tense but not alarmed. When Chloe emerged, Cooper guided her away from the wall-mounted nightlight, which, upon closer inspection, was flickering irregularly. "That's the third time this week he's reacted to electrical devices," Emma noted, adding the incident to her journal. "And have you noticed how he always seems to know which areas of the house to keep the kids away from?" The following days brought more incidents that added to the growing puzzle. During a playdate, Cooper repeatedly prevented the children from playing near an outdoor electrical box, though nothing seemed visibly wrong with it. When a technician checked later, they discovered signs of water damage that could have been dangerous. Even more intriguing was Cooper's reaction to new electronic devices. When Mark brought home a new laptop charger, Cooper inspected it thoroughly before allowing it anywhere near the children. The original charger, they later discovered, had been subject to a recall due to overheating issues. "It's like he has some sort of sixth sense," Chloe observed one afternoon, watching as Cooper methodically patrolled the perimeter of her room. "He's not just a dog, is he, Mom?" Emma smiled at her daughter's perceptiveness. "I think Cooper is very special," she agreed, careful not to dismiss her daughter's intuition. "He certainly takes his job as our protector very seriously." The mystery deepened when they discovered Cooper's reaction to power outages. During a brief blackout, while other dogs in the neighborhood howled and barked, Cooper remained eerily calm, positioning himself strategically between the children and any potential electrical hazards. It was as if he understood not just the presence of electricity, but its absence as well. Mark began documenting Cooper's behaviors on video, creating a comprehensive record of their guardian's unusual abilities. "There has to be an explanation," he insisted, though his voice held more wonder than skepticism now. "Dogs don't just develop these kinds of specific protective instincts without reason." What they didn't realize was that everything they had witnessed so far was merely a prelude. Cooper's true purpose, and the full extent of his extraordinary abilities, would soon be revealed in a way that would leave no room for doubt about the remarkable being that had chosen to become part of their family. As autumn deepened into winter, the Thompson family found themselves at the center of an unfolding mystery that would challenge their understanding of the bonds between humans and animals, and the true nature of protection. Cooper's vigilant eyes seemed to hold secrets from a past they had yet to uncover, and his actions suggested a mission far more crucial than they could imagine. As winter settled over Asheville, bringing with it long nights and early sunsets, the Thompson household fell into a new rhythm, one that revolved around Cooper's mysterious vigilance. The dog's behavior had become increasingly sophisticated, and Emma's journal now contained patterns that could no longer be dismissed as coincidence. One particularly cold evening, while the family gathered in the living room for movie night, Cooper's actions brought these patterns into sharp focus. The children were nestled on the couch, wrapped in blankets, while Mark fiddled with the entertainment system's connections. "Let me just plug in this new surge protector," Mark said, reaching behind the TV cabinet. Before his hand could touch the device, Cooper let out a low, warning growl, a sound they'd never heard from him before. "Cooper!" Emma sat up straighter, recognizing the intensity in the dog's posture. He stood rigid, eyes fixed on the surge protector, his tail straight and alert. Mark withdrew his hand slowly. "Maybe we should check this first," he conceded, examining the device more closely. Under the bright beam of his flashlight, they discovered signs of water damage. The surge protector had been stored in the garage during a recent leak. "Add it to the list," Emma said, reaching for her journal. The incident joined dozens of others, the time Cooper refused to let Ethan use his new nightlight, which later proved to be defective. The morning he herded Chloe away from the toaster, moments before it began smoking. The countless times he'd repositioned the children's electronic toys away from power sources. The following day, Emma decided to organize her observations more systematically. Spreading her journal entries across the kitchen table while the children were at school, she began to see connections she hadn't noticed before. Mark. "Look at this," she called to her husband, Haig, who was working from home that day. Cooper's reactions are strongest around older electrical equipment and during weather changes, and he seems particularly concerned about anything electrical near the children's rooms. Mark leaned over her shoulder, studying the patterns she'd highlighted. There's definitely something extraordinary about his awareness of electrical hazards, but why? What could have happened in his past to make him so attuned to these dangers? As if responding to their discussion, Cooper appeared in the kitchen doorway, his attention focused on the ceiling light fixture that had begun to flicker imperceptibly. Emma and Mark exchanged glances. They hadn't even noticed the subtle change in the light's behavior. That evening, while preparing dinner, Emma witnessed another peculiar incident. Cooper, who usually stayed close to the children during their homework time, suddenly abandoned his post and raced to the laundry room. Emma followed, finding him standing before the dryer, emitting a series of soft but insistent whines. "What is it, boy?" she asked, approaching cautiously. The dryer seemed to be operating normally, but Cooper's behavior suggested otherwise. Following her intuition and months of learning to trust Cooper's instincts, Emma turned off the machine and unplugged it. When the repair technician arrived the next day, his diagnosis confirmed their growing trust in Cooper's abilities. The heating element was about to fail, he explained, showing them the worn components. Baz could have caused a serious problem if you hadn't caught it. But it was during a visit from Grandma Helen that Cooper's behavior pattern revealed an even deeper complexity. Helen, a retired electrical engineer, watched the dog with professional interest as he performed his daily safety rounds. "You know," she mused, observing Cooper's methodical inspection of the house's electrical points. "His behavior reminds me of the specialized detection dogs we used to work with in the power industry. They were trained to identify potential electrical faults before they became dangerous." Emma and Mark exchanged startled looks. Could Cooper have had such training in his mysterious past? But he was found as a puppy, too young to have received formal training. Yet his actions suggested an innate understanding of electrical systems that went beyond mere instinct. As night fell, Cooper's vigilance took on an almost ethereal quality. He moved through the darkened house like a guardian spirit, his attention unwavering. Emma watched from the hallway as he performed his nightly ritual, checking on the children, inspecting power outlets, and positioning himself strategically between potential hazards and his family. "Sometimes I wonder," Emma whispered to Mark as they watched Cooper from their bedroom doorway, "if he was sent to us for a reason, if there's something more to his appearance in our lives than just chance." Mark, who had once been skeptical of such notions, found himself nodding. The evidence of Cooper's extraordinary abilities had become impossible to ignore, and the patterns in Emma's journal told a story that defied conventional explanation. What they didn't know was that all these incidents were building towards something larger, a moment when Cooper's true purpose would become crystal clear. The patterns they'd observed were pieces of a puzzle that was about to come together in a way that would leave no doubt about the remarkable being that had chosen to become their protector. The arrival of February brought unusually severe weather to Asheville, and with it came a noticeable intensification in Cooper's protective behaviors. The dog's actions had evolved from subtle guidance to more urgent interventions, as if he sensed an approaching convergence of events that only he could foresee. One stormy afternoon, while Emma worked at her home office, she noticed Cooper's increasing agitation. He paced between her desk and the window, his attention divided between the approaching storm and the electrical outlets along the wall. Thunder rolled in the distance, and with each crash, Cooper's anxiety seemed to escalate. "What's wrong, buddy?" Emma asked, reaching out to scratch behind his ears. Instead of leaning into her touch as he usually did, Cooper remained rigid, his eyes fixed on the power strip beneath her desk. Following his gaze, Emma noticed something she might have otherwise missed, a subtle discoloration around one of the outlets. Before she could investigate further, Cooper suddenly bolted from the room. Emma followed him to find the dog stationed at the bottom of the stairs, blocking Chloe's attempt to head up to her room. "Mom, Cooper won't let me go upstairs," Chloe complained, trying to sidestep the immovable canine. Cooper stood firm, using his body to gently guide her away from the staircase. Just then, a brilliant flash of lightning illuminated the house, followed immediately by a deafening crack of thunder. The lights flickered ominously, and through the ceiling they heard a sharp buzzing sound coming from the direction of Chloe's room. Mark, who had been working in the garage, rushed in. "Everyone okay?" he called out, his voice tight with concern. Cooper's behavior suddenly made perfect sense. He had known something was wrong with the electrical system in Chloe's room before any human could detect it. The electrician who inspected the house the next day confirmed their suspicions. "You've got some serious issues with the wiring up here," he explained, pointing to several spots in the ceiling where old cables had begun to deteriorate. "Your dog probably saved you from a dangerous situation." This incident marked a turning point in the family's understanding of Cooper's abilities. Even Mark, who had maintained a degree of skepticism despite the mounting evidence, could no longer deny the extraordinary nature of their guardian's gifts. "It's like he's trying to tell us something bigger," Emma mused that evening, watching Cooper perform his nightly patrol with even greater intensity than usual. "As if all these incidents are leading up to something, Her words proved prophetic when, the following week, Cooper's behavior took on an even more urgent quality. He began spending long periods stationed in front of the electrical panel in the basement, his ears twitching at sounds only he could hear. When Ethan tried to play in the basement, Cooper would herd him back upstairs with unprecedented determination. "I've been reviewing the footage from our security cameras," Mark said one night after the children had gone to bed. He pulled up several video clips on his laptop, showing Cooper's movements throughout the house. "Look at this pattern. He's not just reacting to immediate threats anymore, it's like he's anticipating them." The videos revealed Cooper methodically checking specific areas of the house, always in the same order, always with the same careful attention to electrical equipment and the children's movements. But now there was an added urgency to his rounds, a sense of preparation for something yet to come. Emma's journal entries from this period reflected the escalating tension. Cooper refused to leave the children's hallway all night, blocked access to the garage 3 times today, became extremely agitated when the new appliance was delivered. The children, sensitive to their pets' changing behavior, began to ask questions. "Why is Cooper so worried all the time?" Ethan wondered aloud during dinner. "It's like he knows something we don't." Helen, who had become a frequent visitor since noticing Cooper's unusual abilities, offered her professional perspective. "In my years working with electrical systems, I've never seen anything quite like this," she admitted, watching Cooper patrol the perimeter of the living room. "But every instinct tells me he's preparing for something specific." As February drew to a close, the family found themselves living in a state of heightened awareness, guided by their extraordinary guardian's increasing vigilance. Cooper's behavior suggested an approaching culmination, a moment when all the patterns, all the warnings, all the careful preparation would come together in a way that would reveal the true purpose behind his mysterious abilities. What they didn't realize was that this moment was approaching faster than any of them could have anticipated, and it would arrive in a way that would test not only Cooper's remarkable gifts, but also the Thompson family's trust in their extraordinary protector. March arrived with an unusual pattern of severe weather that seemed to mirror the mounting tension within the Thompson household. Cooper's behavior had reached new levels of intensity, and the family found themselves increasingly reliant on his mysterious intuition about their safety. One particularly significant evening began with a family dinner at Grandma Helen's house. The children were excited about visiting their grandmother's old Victorian home, but Cooper's demeanor changed the moment they pulled into the gravel driveway. His usual calm alertness transformed into something more urgent, more focused. "He's acting strange, isn't he?" Helen observed as Cooper methodically inspected her home's entrance, paying particular attention to the ancient wiring visible in the partially renovated foyer. "More so than usual. I mean," Emma nodded, watching as Cooper systematically worked his way through each room of the house, his attention particularly focused on the older sections, where exposed wiring snaked through the walls. "He's been like this for days now. It's almost as if he's preparing for something." The evening progressed with an undercurrent of tension that only Cooper seemed to fully comprehend. While the adults chatted in the kitchen and the children played in the garden, Cooper maintained a rigorous patrol between specific points in the house. His attention seemed particularly focused on the old electrical panel in Helen's utility room and the overhead power lines that connected to the house. "The weather report mentioned possible storms tonight," Helen commented, glancing out her kitchen window at the gathering clouds. "Maybe that's what has him so worked up." But Emma had learned to trust Cooper's behavior patterns enough to know this was different. The way he positioned himself between the children and certain areas of the house, his increasingly insistent attempts to guide them away from specific spots, this went beyond simple weather anxiety. Mark, who had been observing Cooper's movements with growing concern, pulled Emma aside. "Have you noticed how he keeps focusing on that old electrical box in Helen's garden, the one near where the kids are playing?" Indeed, every time Chloe or Ethan ventured too close to a particular corner of the garden, Cooper would materialize beside them, gently but firmly guiding them away. His tactics were subtle but persistent, a nudge here, a blocked path there, always keeping them at a safe distance from that specific area. As evening approached, the atmosphere grew heavier, with both humidity and anticipation. The first drops of rain began to fall, accompanied by distant rumbles of thunder. Cooper's behavior became increasingly urgent, his movements more deliberate and focused. "Maybe we should head home before the storm hits," Mark suggested, watching as Cooper stationed himself firmly between the children and the garden door, refusing to let them go outside for one last play session. But Cooper's reaction to their preparation to leave was unexpected. Instead of heading to the car with his usual readiness, he planted himself in the foyer, blocking their exit. When Mark tried to guide him toward the door, Cooper refused to budge, his eyes fixed on something unseen above them. "I've never seen him like this," Emma whispered, her heart racing as she recognized the intensity in Cooper's stance. This wasn't his usual protective behavior. This was something far more urgent. Helen, drawing on her years of experience with electrical systems, moved closer to inspect the area Cooper was focusing on. "The wiring in this section of the house is original," she mused. Her professional interest piqued. "I've been meaning to have it updated." A sudden flash of lightning illuminated the room, followed almost immediately by a deafening crack of thunder. The lights flickered ominously, and through the walls came a sound that made everyone freeze, a faint but distinct buzzing, growing louder with each passing second. Cooper's behavior shifted from alert to urgent. He began herding the family away from the foyer, his movements precise and determined. The children, sensing the tension, stopped protesting and allowed themselves to be guided toward the kitchen at the back of the house. What happened next would forever change the Thompson family's understanding of their extraordinary guardian. As the storm intensified outside and the old house creaked around them, Cooper's true purpose was about to be revealed in a way that would leave no room for doubt about the remarkable being that had chosen to protect them. The kitchen at Helen's house had become their refuge, though none of them fully understood why. The storm raged outside, its intensity growing with each passing minute, while Cooper maintained his position at the kitchen entrance, his body tense and alert. The familiar comfort of Helen's home had transformed into something more ominous, filled with sounds that seemed to speak directly to their extraordinary guardian. Emma watched as Cooper's ears twitched at frequencies beyond human perception, his attention never wavering from the ceiling above them. The old Victorian house groaned under the assault of wind and rain, but Cooper's focus suggested something more specific, more dangerous than mere weather. "The electrical system in this house," Helen began, her engineering background surfacing in the crisis. "It's been showing signs of strain lately. I've been meaning to have it completely rewired, but—" Her words were cut short by a sharp whine from Cooper. The dog's behavior suddenly shifted from vigilant observation to active intervention. With deliberate movements, he began pressing against Ethan's legs, forcing the boy to move away from the kitchen counter. "Cooper, what?" Ethan started to protest, but Emma quickly shushed him, having learned to trust these moments of urgent guidance from their protector. Seconds later, a disturbing buzz emanated from within the wall near where Ethan had been standing. The sound grew in intensity, accompanied by an acrid smell that made everyone's hair stand on end. Cooper's actions had moved Ethan just moments before a shower of sparks erupted from an outlet, signaling a serious electrical malfunction. "Everyone stay back," Mark commanded, pulling Chloe away from another section of the wall that Cooper had been eyeing warily. The dog's attention darted between multiple points in the kitchen, his body language suggesting an escalating threat. Helen moved toward the basement door, intending to check the electrical panel, but Cooper blocked her path with unprecedented determination. His message was clear: the basement wasn't safe. The storm must be affecting the whole electrical system, Helen realized, her professional expertise lending weight to the situation. With wiring this old, the surge from the lightning could be creating multiple failure points. As if confirming her assessment, Cooper began a systematic herding of the entire family toward the center of the kitchen, away from all walls and electrical equipment. His movements were precise, purposeful, leaving no room for argument or resistance. The lights flickered violently, casting strange shadows across the room. Through the walls came an increasing chorus of buzzing and popping sounds, growing louder and more frequent. Cooper's behavior became more intense, more focused, as if he could see the invisible danger building around them. "Look at how he's positioning himself," Emma observed, her voice barely above a whisper. Cooper had created a protective formation, using his body to guide them into what he clearly believed was the safest position in the room. The children, who had always treated Cooper's peculiar behaviors as a kind of game, now responded to his guidance with silent obedience. They could sense, as could everyone, that this was the moment all of Cooper's previous actions had been preparing them for. Suddenly, a massive crack of thunder shook the house to its foundations. The lights surged blindingly bright for a split second, before plunging them into total darkness. In that moment of illumination, they all saw something extraordinary, visible electrical currents dancing along the walls, following the paths of old wiring that Cooper had been warning them about all evening. Cooper's reaction was immediate and decisive. He pressed against the family, concentrating them even more tightly in their safe zone as chaos erupted around them. The sound of electrical malfunctions reached a crescendo, with sparks visible through the darkness at various points around the kitchen. In the pitch black, Cooper's presence became their anchor, his body a steady guardian between them and the invisible dangers surrounding them. His occasional low growls served as warnings when the electrical surges intensified, guiding them away from areas where the risk was greatest. What happened next would become the defining moment in their understanding of Cooper's extraordinary abilities, a moment that would reveal not just the extent of his protective instincts, but the true nature of the gift that had brought him into their lives. As the storm reached its peak and the old house groaned under the strain of failing systems, Cooper's ultimate purpose was about to become crystal clear. In the darkness of Helen's kitchen, with the storm raging outside and danger lurking within the walls, Cooper's true nature as a protector manifested itself in ways that left no room for doubt. The old Victorian house had become a battlefield of electrical hazards, and Cooper was their only guide through this dangerous terrain. The situation reached its critical point when a series of sharp cracks echoed through the ceiling, followed by the sound of something giving way. Cooper's reaction was instantaneous. He lunged forward, forcefully pushing Ethan and Chloe to the ground just as a section of the ceiling light fixture crashed down, showering the area with sparks and debris. "Oh my God!" Emma gasped, clutching the children close while Cooper maintained his protective stance over them. The fallen fixture had exposed live wires that now dangled dangerously close to where the children had been standing moments before. Helen's engineering experience suddenly provided crucial insight. "The whole electrical system is overloading," she announced, her voice steady despite the chaos. "The old wiring can't handle the power surges from the storm." Cooper's behavior shifted into an even higher state of alertness. He began making short, sharp barks, something they had never heard from him before. These weren't the warning growls they had grown accustomed to. This was different, more urgent. "He wants us to move," Mark realized, recognizing the intensity in Cooper's signals. Everyone, follow Cooper's lead. Their trust in Cooper's guidance had become absolute, and not a moment too soon. As they followed his urgent herding toward the kitchen's far corner, a massive electrical surge ripped through the house's ancient wiring. Blue sparks cascaded from multiple points in the walls, illuminating the room in an eerie, dangerous light. Cooper's movements became more precise, more purposeful. He positioned himself between the family and the most dangerous areas, creating a safe zone with his body. His eyes reflected the occasional flashes of electricity, giving him an almost supernatural appearance in the darkness. "Look at how he's protecting us," Chloe whispered, her voice filled with awe. "It's like he can see the electricity." Indeed, Cooper's behavior suggested exactly that, an ability to perceive electrical dangers that were invisible to human eyes. He reacted to each new surge before it happened, adjusting his protective position accordingly. The storm's intensity peaked, and with it came the moment that would forever cement Cooper's legacy as their extraordinary guardian. A particularly violent lightning strike hit somewhere very close to the house, sending a massive power surge through the electrical system. The walls came alive with the sound of crackling energy, and the air itself seemed to buzz with dangerous potential. Cooper's reaction was immediate and dramatic. He lunged toward an outlet near Helen, pushing her away with surprising force just as it exploded in a shower of sparks. His timing was perfect. Had Helen remained where she was, she would have been seriously injured. "He knew," Helen breathed, her professional skepticism finally dissolving completely. "He's been trying to warn us about the electrical dangers in this house all evening." The family huddled together in their Cooper-designated safe zone, watching in amazement as their guardian dog continued to patrol the perimeter he had established, redirecting them whenever a new danger presented itself. His movements were calculated, his attention unwavering, his purpose clear. He was there to protect them, and he would let nothing threaten their safety. As the storm began to subside and the immediate danger passed, the full reality of what they had witnessed began to sink in. Cooper's mysterious behaviors over the past months, his attention to electrical devices, his careful monitoring of the children's activities, his persistent warnings about certain areas of the house, it all made sense now. He wasn't just a pet who happened to be protective, he was a guardian with an extraordinary gift. An ability to sense and prevent electrical dangers that could have caused serious harm. But even as they marveled at this revelation, none of them realized that the night's events were merely the prelude to an even more dramatic demonstration of Cooper's remarkable abilities. The final test of his protective instincts was yet to come, and it would prove beyond any doubt that their extraordinary guardian had been sent to them for a very specific purpose. In the days following the incident at Helen's house, the Thompson family's understanding of Cooper's extraordinary abilities deepened into something approaching reverence. The old Victorian house had been declared unsafe until a complete electrical overhaul could be performed, and the inspection revealed just how close they had come to a catastrophic situation. Cooper's intervention had quite literally saved their lives. "The entire electrical system was compromised," the chief inspector explained, shaking his head in disbelief as he reviewed the damage. "If you had been anywhere near those walls when the main surge hit..." He left the sentence unfinished, but its implications hung heavy in the air. Cooper, who had maintained his vigilant watch over the family even after they returned home, seemed different now, not more relaxed, but more fulfilled. As if a crucial part of his mission had been accomplished, his protective behaviors continued, but with a new sense of confidence and purpose. The local news caught wind of the story, and soon reporters were calling to learn more about the remarkable dog who had prevented a potential catastrophe. Helen, drawing on her engineering background, became Cooper's most vocal advocate. "In all my years working with electrical systems, I've never seen anything like it," she told a local journalist. "He doesn't just detect problems, and he actively works to prevent them. It's as if he was specifically sent to protect this family." The media attention brought unexpected revelations. A former employee of a power company research facility reached out to the Thompsons after seeing Cooper's story. He explained that there had been experimental programs working with specially bred dogs to detect electrical faults, but the project had been discontinued. The timing and location suggested a possible connection to Cooper's origins, though the full truth of his background remained a mystery. One evening, as the family sat together in their living room, Emma finally completed her journal of Cooper's remarkable journey with them. The detailed record of his behaviors, once puzzling, now read like a carefully orchestrated series of interventions, each action building toward the moment when his gift would be needed most. "You know what I think," Chloe said, curled up next to Cooper on the floor. "I think he was always meant to find us, like a guardian angel who chose to be a dog." Mark, who had once been the biggest skeptic of Cooper's unusual abilities, nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes the most extraordinary gifts come in the most unexpected packages," he reflected, watching as Cooper maintained his usual protective position near the children. The true impact of Cooper's presence in their lives extended far beyond that dramatic night at Helen's house. His consistent vigilance had transformed their understanding of protection, teaching them that love sometimes manifests in mysterious ways. The empty space left by Molly had been filled not just with new love, but with a deeper appreciation for the inexplicable bonds between humans and animals. Local animal shelters reported increased adoption rates as Cooper's story spread, with families opening their hearts to the possibility that every animal has unique gifts to share. The Thompsons began working with local organizations to promote awareness about rescue animals and the extraordinary potential hidden within each one. Cooper's legacy grew beyond his remarkable electrical sensitivity. he became a symbol of the mysterious ways in which love and protection can enter our lives, reminding people that sometimes the most extraordinary guardians come to us in the most ordinary disguises. As Emma made the final entry in her journal, Cooper raised his head and met her eyes with that same knowing look she had first seen at the shelter. In that moment, she understood that some gifts defy explanation. They simply must be accepted with gratitude and wonder. The Thompsons had set out to fill an empty space in their home and hearts, but they had received something far more precious, a guardian whose extraordinary abilities were matched only by his dedication to protecting those he loved. Cooper's story became a testament to the incredible bonds that can form between humans and animals, and the mysterious ways in which love can manifest as protection. Dear listeners, we hope Cooper's extraordinary tale has touched your hearts and opened your minds to the mysterious ways in which protection and love can enter our lives. For more incredible stories about the remarkable bonds between humans and their animal guardians, please subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell. We've created a special playlist of similar heartwarming tales that you can find by clicking the link to your left. If Cooper's story moved you, please leave a like and share your own experiences with extraordinary animal companions in the comments below. Remember, sometimes the most remarkable guardians come into our lives in the most unexpected ways. Join us tomorrow for another touching story that explores the incredible depths of the human-animal bond. Until then, keep your hearts open to the extraordinary possibilities that await.